Dude, you look exactly the same.
That's good.
Like, you haven't aged. You haven't aged today.
Yeah,
You're
that's not true.
You look exactly how I remember you.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
That's cool.
Dude, what rank are you now?
Storm first class.
Sergeant first class.
Yeah.
So are you a platoon sergeant or?
No, so I work at a clinic, and I'm serving as the. So something happened, and I was able to serve as the E8 or like the master sergeant position. So I've been doing that for like the last quarter, I guess.
That's good stuff. How you liking it?
It's a challenge. It's different.
Do you still deploy under that position?
No. I mean, I guess if I really wanted to, because so we fall under MRC East as far as like military stuff goes, and so really all military are assets to deploying units. So I guess every once in a while there's like a task that you could hop on or something like that. But really, for the most part, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily be me unless I really wanted to go on like whatever tasking it is.
Yeah.
So
you're essentially interim master sergeant right now.
well, so it's called senior enlisted leader, like senior enlisted advisor. I don't know if it's interim. I think it's until I leave this place. So that's
okay. Well, that's pretty cool.
I guess it sounds cool. It doesn't feel cool. Yeah.
Well, how many years have you done now?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
9 more years and you can retire.
Yeah. I hope. See, hopefully I can make it that long.
9 more years. Sergeant Major Sobers. Is that what's around the corner?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
What's the plan with that once you get out? Are you going to try and go like the LPN, RN route or maybe be a flight medic?
I haven't even thought that far. I think for a while I was looking at options, but really just because I recently just went in depth, I'm kind of like reevaluating everything, trying to see what potentially would be available. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bro, I'm never going to give you advice because you're way better than me and everything. But I would say if I could, try to get at least your 2-year while you're in because it's free. So then you got a full GI Bill when you come out.
Well, so I gave my GI Bill to my daughter. So right now,
yeah. Right. I think you told me that before.
Yeah, so I gave it to my daughter. So she goes to the University of Baylor. And then through the yellow ribbon plus the GI Bill, it's completely free. So, but I did join in Texas. Texas has the Hazelwood Act, so they'll still cover 120 hours as long as it's a public university. So I'll be able to go back to school no matter what. Or, I mean, if I have other kids, I can give them the hours rather than they won't have the monthly stipend. But I mean, hopefully, I'm still making money and I won't need to have money on. I'll be able to afford that. But for her, it's definitely valuable that she has the GI Bill and gets that monthly stipend.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more for people that live in Texas. So you were able to give your GI Bill up to your daughter and she got all the full benefits. But tell me about this Texas bill that you told me about.
So
more about it. How's it work?
Texas Hazelwood Act, how it works is anybody who enlists in the state of Texas, it's basically a veteran benefit that they have. Because I guess they were finding that around the time all of us were really joined, people would get out and they didn't know what they were doing. They would still exhaust all of their GI Bill. And so once you exhaust your GI Bill, the next thing people say is, they immediately think loans and things like that. But the Hazelwood Act covers 120 hours. So 120 hours, I mean,
it's a bachelor's.
Exactly. If you do it right, it could cover bachelor's, and you'll have minimal. I mean, obviously, I guess it's designed if you still work, because then you should come out without having a significant amount of debt. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, once I transferred that to her, then I got that benefit becomes the next entitlement.
Jeez. And while you're active duty right now, you could do any classes for free pretty much. So
yeah. So you still get, I think it's like, it ends up covering like 16 to 19 hours of tuition and fees. I think it varies sometimes. It was like $4,500. I think maybe now it's $4,000, but it ends up being like 16 hours in a year. So it's
Yeah,
good.
the milk take advantage. My uncle, I don't know the exact specifics, but he used to work on like Patriot missiles defense systems when he was in the army, and then while he was in, he got his master's all the way, and it was some kind of engineering master's degree. So then when he got out, he went and worked for like some kind of big military contractors like Raytheon, and it's just such a good benefit, and you're going to set yourself up for so much success having that.
Yeah, I highly recommend technical schools too. That's what I did when I got out. I went, if you work through the summer, year and a half, you can have a degree in a technical field. So I did drafting and design, 3D modeling, stuff like that. But if you wanted to be a welder, electrician, anything like that, you could go knock it out in less than 2 years.
That's good. And right now, I mean, for a lot of people, if they get in, they should always everybody should start looking at Skill Bridge. That's something that we didn't really do while at Fort Polk it wasn't advertised. I guess because a lot of y'all did 3-year contracts, but really Skill Bridge can be up to 180 days, where you can find a trade and you still pull your active duty pay because you know you're not going to continue to serve, and you do that full time. And I mean, it's a packet like anything else. So obviously, you have to have a good track record and whatnot. But you literally essentially you out process and you go and you do this job for 180 days, and then you come back. Obviously, you have to fully clear post at that point, and then within that 180 days you at least did like an internship. Some of them can be paid, or you started doing, essentially getting college credits for things. That's something real big here where we're at. We sent 2 people in the last 6 months, and then they even talk about how, like, you got like full bird colonels taking advantage of the CFP program because they've spent their whole time in the army really adapting to that lifestyle, and they still need, even though they're going to get very good jobs when they get out, it's still there's still like a gap for them to get used to how the actual business world and certain things might work. So that's something that is called Skill Bridge. It's definitely something anybody who's thinking of getting out needs to look into because it was never talked about while we were at.
No, no,
Yeah,
I've never heard of that before.
yeah. So it's you get paid. So you're still getting your active duty benefits, you're still getting paid, and then you roll right in to do that internship. Then you can basically you ETS, and then now you start to go and draw all your other benefits, and you would have been able to already be in that working environment or figuring out if what you think the field is you want to do is the field that you want to
Man, that would have come in handy if I would have known about that while I was in.
do. Yeah. So
Well,
Sobers.
what's
Oh,
up?
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, Sobers, how much you benching these days?
Now it's probably right at 405. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Remember on deployment, we had the board. We put all of our numbers up there.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was one of my favorite memories because we all had like, I made it to the 1,000 club. I was so happy. You guys were always pushing me.
Yeah.
It
That
was
was
pretty
still
cool.
to this day. Yeah, those are like some of my favorite memories. Yeah, it was good. That's one thing I'll say about that unit. I mean, that obviously no one likes like Leesville that way, but as
No.
far as it goes, the the platoons and Creek Company, it really felt like everybody was a team. It was a team environment. We felt like it kind of did feel like a family, even though we didn't necessarily all hang out outside of work all the time. But it was still, after leaving there, I haven't found something that's like that, and I imagine it's still similar in other places because you've done multiple duty stations, but that's still something that I found like they it was really good about that group of people.
Wait, Sobers, you miss the loud music at 2 a.m.? Just
I'm not talking about everything outside of work. I'm just saying like
I know.
it really felt like a because coming from I played college football, it had that environment like, oh, we're
Yeah.
actually a team.
Yeah.
Not everywhere you go does it feel like a team, and then not every as you start to progress the rank, it still becomes like it is a competition of you versus other people because promotions come into play. And then the older people get, the less they like their goals change, their mindset changes, what they care about changes. There was like we're just there, we're together, we want to. How can we get off of work in time, on time, or at a decent time, and you know It just felt more like a family.
Yeah, it
I
seems
know.
like the higher the rank you get as well, the less friends you're allowed to be able to hang out with.
Exactly.
So, aside from competing with the other E7s, E6s, you're not allowed to hang out with the E5s and below. It looks
Yeah.
bad. So,
Yeah.
that makes things difficult.
Yeah. Definitely. It changes. It changes a lot, and I guess it doesn't. It changes faster than you want it to.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have time to like think about it. It's just like boom, it happens. Um, so as y'all know, right? Like you get out and you think like, oh, I'll be fine when I get out, and it literally changes overnight, and it's like
Yeah.
a whole different world. It's because
And,
it is a different world.
and it's probably a lot different for you medics too, because every single one of my deployments or when we get back to the field, it seemed like I always had a different medic. It was never one medic for my whole stint anywhere. So I'm assuming you bounce around a lot.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You bounce around a ton, and then not only that, it's even like from unit to unit, it's drastically different, right? Like you got medics who have nothing to do with combat arms, so like those are different personalities. And not only that, the army has changed a lot. I want to say when we were all in Louisiana, um, we didn't even have females around yet, you know. And then like
No,
by the time I left there, we started to get female medics in, you know. And then now it's like if you go back, there's probably have true female soldiers. So it's just the shifts are they're drastic and they happen quicker than you would like, or maybe quicker than you anticipate. I'm not gonna say than you would like. I think it's just quicker than you anticipate sometimes.
yeah, and I wonder how that would affect the deployment as far as having female soldiers on a line unit and you being a medic having to like be hands on. How you know what I'm saying? Like I wonder how do you run into a lot of issues with that?
No, I haven't ran into any. I guess
That's
because
good.
once you deploy, it is like it is very very different. Um, you know, so I haven't personally experienced it. Now I'm sure it's a thing. I guarantee you it's a thing somewhere, but I didn't experience it, or I haven't yet.
That's good.
Yeah.
Uh, how many deployments have you been on since that last one?
So I just went on one more. I just went in 2018. We went to Iraq, and we actually we stayed in like a bombed out palace in Mosul, one of Saddam's bombed out palaces. We converted it into like a pretty much an operations, and we did. And so there, I served as like the lead medic, and so it was like me, the PA, and then we had a team of like three medics, and we pretty much just worked in like that headquarters element, and
That's
it was a good
crazy.
experience.
We're still going to Iraq.
Well, that was 2018, so that was ISIS.
Oh,
So I mean,
okay. Okay. 5 years ago.
I'm sure we're still there now. Just don't know in what capacity. I'm sure we still do something.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
I'm
that,
sure.
and that was still with Fort Polk, right? Because you
Yeah,
guys all deployed. I remember because I messaged you and I was like, "I'll pray for you guys and
yeah,
stuff." I remember that.
yeah,
Then you got to go to Germany, right?
yeah. So right after that, I actually came back, and then within like 70 days of getting back, I was sent to Germany. Yeah,
So let's talk about the happy stuff first. In Germany, did you get to go to a beer festival?
yeah. So luckily, Germany it's kind of half and half, right? Because I got there the first year. I got to experience everything. I did get to go to Oktoberfest. I did get to travel, and then the second half, COVID happened, so it really changed that.
Oh,
But I was still able to travel because Americans we're not we kind of do what we follow rules differently. And
I
so
was
that
just
did
going to ask that.
yeah. So I did get to like travel, but it was different. Like I went to Venice and it was real clean, real empty. Um, so it was just a different experience. So it wasn't as lively, but still there were still certain parts. Like when I went to Barcelona, it was still an amazing time. When I went to Madrid, it was still phenomenal. I got to
mm.
watch. I watched the Yankees play the Red Sox in London.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, so I based a lot of my travel around trying to do sporting events or things. I saw the Women's World Cup in Paris. So it was
What?
still, yeah, it was still really cool. So it's still a good experience. Like I would go back. I miss it all the time.
What was your or did you get to go to a soccer game?
Yeah, so I did. I went to multiple soccer games because in Germany, the Munich team is really good. So I went there. I went to 2 or 3 games there. I also went to see the team. I saw PSG play as well. That's also where I saw the women at that same stadium. So I just based it around that. I got real into that. The one thing that I wanted to really do that I didn't get to, I wanted to go to a Formula One race there, but I didn't get to. And now Formula One is like all over, right? Like it's a big thing now. But that's when because of the time change, really the only thing that you can watch is Formula One and soccer. Like, and if you're not,
Yeah.
if you, but as a sport, I'm just a sports fan because I think it's like true live action, so I'm all right with anything. But not everybody's like that. Like it was hard for football. I think one year I didn't even play fantasy football because you're staying up like 2, 3 in the morning trying to track games. Like that wasn't enjoyable. So,
Yeah.
You know what's the best thing about deployment when I deployed is it was the Super Bowl where the Broncos got spanked by Seattle. So
yeah.
obviously I didn't get to watch it, so I've just blacked it out of my memory. I don't have to ever remember seeing that.
And the thing about that is the game before that, the Seahawks beat the 49ers and they won by like it was like a goal line stop. And man, so I remember I did actually stay up to watch that, and that was very heartbreaking.
No, I think I got to watch the AFC Championship game. I think we all did get to watch that. But then the Super Bowl, we had a mission, so I didn't. We were on a mission for the Super Bowl, and I came back and I checked the scores and I was like, "What happened?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
Danny, what'd you do?"
yeah.
How'd you watch the 49ers over there? Did you
I don't
get to
remember where
watch too many games in Germany?
in Germany, everything was on your phone, like because nothing. Like so, if you're watching, I'm watching it on my phone. I'm streaming it, like something like that. So it wasn't, for a while it was almost like football. Like I hate to say it, it's like it didn't exist. So that made it tough.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
That's
one of my favorite. Sorry, Jones. I was going to say
no, go ahead.
one of my favorite Broncos players. Sobers got to meet, and I got his picture on my phone. Demarius Thomas. Sobers
Oh,
got
that's
to meet him,
awesome.
and
yeah.
Sobers is good.
That was in Phoenix, man. Yeah, that was he was real cool. Like legit. Yeah, I remember he wasn't drinking, wasn't smoking, wasn't doing anything like that. He was just playing pool. We met him. He took the photo with us, and then it was even crazy because the next day, like he gave us his phone number. And the next day, he's like, "Well, I'm kind of here just training. It's summertime, so when y'all go out tomorrow, hey, message me and we'll like meet up." And it was cool.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
He got to meet DT, and I got his picture. He sent it to me because he's like, "Look who I met," and I was
yeah.
like, "What?" And I have Demarius Thomas's jersey, so it's a rest in peace. He was a good guy and a good player. I will say though, I got to tell you a funny thing. I have a curse with buying jerseys, and out of respect for Pat Surtain, I just don't want to ruin his career. I really want his jersey, but I can't get it because I'll give you a quick timeline. My first ever jersey was Terrell Davis, and after I bought it or got it, he blew out his knee and never got to play again. Then I bought a Rod Smith jersey, and he broke his hip or something that season. I'm not making this up. It continues. And then I got Demarius Thomas's jersey, and the drop problem started. It was crazy. All of a sudden, he started having all these drops. Then I got Bradley Roby, and he just dropped off and became nothing. And then I got a Bradley Chubb jersey, and he got traded. He got hurt and traded.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying a jersey anymore. Former players.
I think I've only got one jersey, and that's Kamara for the Saints.
Oh, that's a good jersey.
Yeah, that's it. And I quit watching when Breeze retired, man. I just haven't watched a game since.
Probably shouldn't. Not yet. They're not.
No, it was depressing. I couldn't take it.
But I was going to say, though, it's crazy because Sobers, you're a big dude, but in that picture, Demarius Thomas looks a lot bigger than you. And I was I was like, what? Sobers is huge. How is this possible?
Yeah.
I was going to say, just when you came in the Army, or when I first met you, at least, you were big then. When did you start getting big, or when did you start working out like that?
So really, man, I was kind of like a fat kid, I was a fat kid, and I wasn't really good at sports. And Probably like eighth grade year, I I like lifted weights, and I think right away when I did it, my brother, who's like, you know, one of the most important people in my life, he like immediately gave me like a positive feedback, right? Like it was, and I think that's something that, and I get it. I was eighth grade, so I was able to see growth really fast. But I just think that immediately, whenever you're working out, like that's something that you need, that positive feedback. So I think once I got that, I saw that it did improve other things, right? Because obviously you get the self confidence as a kid, you're a fat kid, and then all of a sudden now, like people are looking at you like, oh man, you're pretty built, you know. And even though it's eighth, ninth grade, um, it changes everything, you know.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so I started doing that, and luckily, like initially people gave me positive feedback, and then as you do it for a while, you're doing kind of what you like, and then but I got better at sports, and so then doing it with other people, that helps, right? So that's, I think, the whole having people there to reinforce, like, or go through it with you always helps.
Yeah, because then you're on a team, and then your coach is
Yeah,
like, "Hey, you guys need to go work out after practice or something." And then you're going with your buddies, and then
yeah,
so you just kind of got in a routine of doing it after middle school. You got positive reinforced, and
yeah,
you just kept doing it.
yeah.
When do you like? When did you see your biggest body transformation though? Was it like when you had a growth spurt in high school and teenager, or
So I would say uh, junior going into senior year, and then in college, I would say sophomore going into junior year, and then in the army, um, the first deployment. So I would say really had three big jumps, um, and I didn't know like they were going to happen. So the first one happened, right? Like it happened, and I was like, oh dang, like this is different. Like, you know, it is different. And then when it happened again in college, I was like, okay, I know this can happen again. And so I kind of like was chasing to get that next big jump, and it took years, right? Like, and then on the deployment, it got drafted. But a lot of things changed, right? Like every one of those points, like I started to do something different. Because I'll be honest, I didn't do any deadlifting before the army, and then when I started deadlifting, it took a while, right? Like we were probably, it was like a year we were gone. And so over that year, there was a big jump in my physique and like my strength and all those things.
dude, you want to talk about the positive reinforcement? True story. You and Douglas are the reason why I really love deadlifting because you guys are always encouraging me. Like sobers, you were like my motivation sometimes, man. I remember we'd be like, you'd get the pre workout in and you'd go, "Whoa," and yeah, it was just so fun to work out with you, or at least nearby, because you're just kicking those weights butts. So
Yeah.
that's always one
Yeah.
of my favorite memories.
Yeah, I think the positive reinforcement is good, but also, you know, that sometimes this can sound, now that I'm older, right? Like even if someone tells me something negative, it's like, oh, I could prove you wrong, right? So now at this point, it's just getting any kind of feedback. I think that's just what's important. Obviously, early on, I would say people definitely need all positive feedback. But then as you start to do the grind day in, day out, you realize like I don't, any feedback is what's needed, right? Whether I'm looking in the mirror, whether someone's telling me I can't do something, it's just you really have to try to find a way to take that focus and to turn it into what you need. Right now we're calling it feedback, but you need to turn it into whatever type of motivation that you can get to do those things. So at any point, it's valuable, but it's like it's very hard, right? Because you step on the scale or you look in the mirror, you don't see changes. Um, so it is a grind, though. But I think that's what's important. But yeah, had I not had the first jump and then got another one like in college, I don't know if, you know, like physique wise, size wise, strength wise, I wouldn't have known that it was necessarily like possible, right? You know.
Yeah.
Was some of that feedback that you got that was positive also from like contests? Because if I remember right, didn't you win strongest man on post?
Yeah. So I say this right because but it's like my own like cockiness and trying to be. I never like actually. What I always told myself is, oh, I've never met someone actually strong. Like obviously, I know they exist, right? Like there's always someone bigger, badder, stronger. But
Demarius Thomas was bigger than you.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but are you actually stronger than me, right? That's something that was my fuel, that was my motivation, right? So in doing weightlifting competition, I didn't never do it like true powerlifting competition or anything like that. But if there's something and I'm around, I'm gonna enter it. You know, like 1,000 pound
Yeah,
competition, I'm gonna enter it, and then I'm gonna gauge to see where I'm at, and I don't need to be like the highest number, but pound for pound, I want to be like, percentage wise, I want to be up there. So yes, definitely doing little things like that, helped. And not only that, I feel like something that where we were, everybody like they were really into working out, which I guess that's tied into being in the military, but they really
yeah,
did like I do the best. I would do those competitions, and you could get an award, right? Even if it was a COA, you still got an award, right? Not everywhere you go is that a thing. Like some people just don't care about those things, but there they did it, and so I think that helped a lot.
How
yeah.
many
And that was
contests did you?
go ahead. I was just gonna say that was during deployment, wasn't it?
There was one on post before deployment, then they did one on deployment, and then I did another one on post, and then I did one even when we were in. So I did four of them. So it was it was good. They're all good.
Did you win all four?
Yeah, never lost. Believe that? Actually, no, the one in Iraq, I got the dude deadlifted more than me. Yeah. But it
Oh,
wasn't he didn't bench more or squat more, but he deadlifted. Yeah.
but then
But
you
that was
still
one
beat
of
him because you got 2 out of 3, right? Yeah.
the that's what I'll tell myself. But at that time I wanna say he was like he was a contractor. So he was like a full like so he could
Oh, it doesn't count. Yeah, you definitely won.
yeah, he could do whatever. Yeah. Uh but no, it was good. They've all been fun. Yeah. And it's kind of like you said, because I don't always go to the gym, and I like rarely are you maxing out, right? Like you don't do that. So in those moments, like without overexerting myself or hurting myself, it's nice to like see like, oh dang, like because you surprise yourself when the adrenaline's going and people are watching, so it's fun.
Sobers, let's talk a little bit about our age because we're all getting up there. I don't remember if I was older or younger, but how does that affect your workout? Like I'm 33 now.
So I'm
Um,
36. Um, Recovering takes longer. And if I take a break, like if I go a while without working out, I never really get sick. But what I'll say is like if I take a while or if I go on vacation or something happens, that stuff happens. If I go like a decent amount of time without working out and I come back and I'm lifting weights without doing like cardio and I lift weights like 3 days in a row, that's when like I'll feel like I'm susceptible to sickness or I'll actually get sick. Like my body will get achy, I'll get the runny nose and all those things. That's something that I've noticed. And then obviously just like just recovering is it's harder, and motivation is a lot harder, right? Like it's very different as you older you get to still like want to go, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So those are the challenges.
yeah, I can't lift that heavy anymore because I'm still getting my grip back. I I don't know if you saw the further earlier episode, but I
Yeah. Where
stabbed
you?
my hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had to get a 7 mm. I had a 7 mm gap, and I had to get a piece of collagen. The surgeon put a piece of collagen in my hand so the nerves could repair itself. And I've slowly had feeling restore into my hand, and it still feels like a little bit of pins and needles right there. So like I just kind of do when I deadlift now. I just do like 225, 4 sets of 10, and I haven't tried to go anything further than that at that point because I'm still like 9 months, maybe
Yeah.
10 months after surgery. But yeah, it is fun to get that adrenaline rush still. But I'm older now. I'm like, and I don't know. Is there any supplements that you take maybe that you've noticed that are kind of different than maybe you took in your 20 that you like better? Or?
No, well now I don't take anything, right? Because that's so I would say when I was 33, when I first got to Germany, I started having high blood pressure, which and so because of that, I stopped like taking a lot of supplements, and I started taking like blood pressure medication. And so I kind of avoid things um, now. Before I would try a lot of other stuff, but really now I don't.
So
And
do you
maybe
just
that's
stay super strict with your diet instead of supplements? Like just make sure you're eating a lot of red meats or
yeah. So I'll just monitor my protein intake. I'm not going to say everything is all healthy all the time. But I still try to monitor the protein intake, and then I try to stay within a certain like weight range because I know like at a certain point. Um, if I get too big, like, or different, it's harder to run, right? And then also there's times where if I get too, because my body naturally has enough, like a decent amount of muscle mass, where if I get too lean, that's when like my knee will hurt, or like my elbows and shoulders will hurt. And I don't even know if it's because of that, like the amount of weight I used to do, because I don't lift that heavy anymore. My deadlift is still pretty heavy, but just I try to avoid that, um, and then I'll ease into it, right? Like I did tear my bicep because we went to the field in Germany for like about a month, and I came back and I was deadlifting, and I don't know, like and I finished, and I was like, oh, I still feel good. Let me go back. And when I went back, I didn't put on the straps. I did mixed grip, and then like I felt like a Velcro pull tear. And at
oh
that point,
man.
I was pretty lean, and I was like, man, like that like I usually don't injure myself, like it doesn't really happen. Like I have a knee injury, but it wasn't never from working out. Like I hurt it in
Right.
football, so I've never actually hurt myself working out. And obviously you get like joint pains and stuff like that, which probably is like wear and tear over time from shoulder press and stuff. But if I'm like if I'm at a decent weight, I feel. What I say is that I feel good. So when I feel good, I feel actually like I feel powerful enough to push and move whatever I need to move. Um, but yeah, so I try to avoid the supplements. I'm not saying people should. I think they're great. I just, for me, with blood pressure issues, I don't want like I got to monitor like caffeine and all that stuff.
Right.
Sobers, guess what I have? The multivitamin I still take to this day. Optimum
What's that?
Nutrition.
Hey, no, that is so that is something I will take. I do take. Yes, I still take Optimum Nutrition multivitamin. That is still the best. They're
I got
big
it on my
pills. I don't
counter.
like that part, but it worked. Like you just
I remember you
yeah
told me that, and I still to this day buy that
yeah.
multivitamin for men.
And I still think that that is the best protein. Now I do like the ready-made shakes only because I don't have like a blender or a NutriBullet, so I'll do like the Core Power like uh, protein shakes. Those are really good. But yeah, that's kind of it.
I remember that protein was so good, and we would order different flavors, and everyone would be like, "Oh, can I try your flavor?" And we'd
Yeah,
all have different flavors, and we'd all try each other's.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
good times.
It really
So,
was like a dorm life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
A
know
lot of good camaraderie.
yeah,
everyone had like each other's room combos for the most part too, so it
yeah,
just walk
yep,
in all the time.
yeah,
That was one of the best things though. You didn't have to be alone, and like say you wanted to go do something, you could probably find someone that would want to do that with you. Like, hey, who wants to go out to eat? Oh, one, two, three. Okay, boom. Okay, here we go. You know.
yeah.
Oh, we got eight. Okay, well here we go.
Yeah, or even if
Right.
you wanted to be alone, there was always someone around.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Dude, there were so many nights I'd go in my room and get ready to crash and turn around and somebody be in there eating my food out of the freezer or sitting over there playing on my video games. I'd be like, dude, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
what was it like your whole experience as being a father and being in the military? Like, let's talk about that.
So I mean, I had my daughter still young. I had her when I was 16. I'm extremely grateful for like her mother because her mother did stepped up in times that I wasn't around. Um, and so something that I'll say is, this is gonna sound weird because the military. I feel like they preach family first and all that stuff. I do really think it's like a single man's game,
Yeah.
because it does require a certain level of selfishness, and you do kind of need to be goal oriented or goal focused. Granted, it is great for families because you can probably, if you're with your family, you can go to every single doctor's appointment. The healthcare benefits are great no matter what anybody wants to think about military healthcare. It's still like it's free, right? So that changes everything. But but it's kind of like you have to. For me, I had to like make a deal with myself. I had to become okay with not being around, right? Because you miss tons of time, tons of time. Um, and that was the hard trade-off. Now that she's older, she does understand that, and our relationship is really good because of that. But early on, right, like when she's a kid, so I joined and she was already like 7, 8, right, like, and you're not taking her to the first day of school, and you're not taking her to any extracurricular activities because work. Um, and then the other side of it is, well, if I had her all the time, um, I then that would have hindered my career at times, right? Or I still would have missed events and things. So I would say it was definitely a challenge. I lost a lot of sleep over it, right? I probably, if I could do things, I would. We all have regrets and stuff like that, but it's definitely it's hard. You have to become okay with knowing you're going to miss events. And I guess that's any job, but it's just so different in the military where you don't even have a choice, right? You can't even change. I can't change my job to be more present, right? It's like it is what it is. And you don't even, I don't know if you, like, I think a lot of times we make decisions without thinking of all the ramifications. Um, and so you join and you hear people talk about family is important. Make sure you're spending time with your family. You get 30 days of leave a year, but there's certain times where they'll tell you when you take those 30 days of leave because of what's going on. And so that means, like it doesn't always line up when they're able to be off from school or where you can necessarily be around. And then even if I wasn't living with her full time, she wasn't around, like you go home and then you still have to see family, you still have to see your other friends, you still have to, you're trying to be a dad, so you just miss a lot of things. And her mom still had a whole nother family, right? Like they're going on vacations, they're doing their Christmases, they're doing their things. So you miss a lot of you miss a lot.
Especially you've been in what, 11
Yeah.
years, 2 deployments. I mean, that's 2 years right there where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
maybe got 2 weeks of R&R.
Yeah. So you
That's a
missed.
lot of time.
Yeah. So I missed a lot. Yeah. So that was a big challenge.
Do you feel like technology though helped make it a little bit better, like the
Oh
invention of
yeah,
like FaceTiming and
yeah, without FaceTime, probably wouldn't have made it. Without FaceTime for sure. Because even on like in the deployment in 2018, we got like SIM cards. It was still 4G, right? Like you could still call home every day. You know, even when I went to Germany during COVID, it was still a similar thing. Like I could call every day. It just mattered of me staying up at night to be able to talk to them.
Right.
So, yeah. So it was,
Did you ever have her come out and stay with you in Germany?
no, because of COVID, she couldn't. So that was
Oh,
the only,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was the one place. But now I live in Maryland. She's come multiple times, and now she's an adult and she wants to hang out with me still. So that's like a win.
Just curious, as a medic during the whole COVID thing, what was the protocol in the military if one of the soldiers got COVID?
So everywhere was different, right? Everybody had to follow different rules and different things. But we were over there in Germany, so you have to follow like a lot of different protocols. So for most people, there was a period of time where they didn't even go to work for weeks at a time. Like they were
Yeah.
just like at home in their barracks or doing whatever. But so if they got COVID, it was like on day 7 they get checked. They do another test, and then on day 10 they get tested again. So it was like uh, a lot of time off. But at that time, I was a platoon sergeant and I was a graph, and so there was there was a time where I went to work every day, like
Is that where
every
you were in Germany? Was Grafenwehr?
yeah, I was in graph. Yeah. So every day there was probably like a period of like 2 months where I went to work every day to do something. But there'd be times where they would lock down units and lock down sections. Being medical, I was never ever locked down, and I never got COVID, fortunately. So I never. I guess it's unfortunate if I wanted to miss work, but there were times like I always had kind of freedom of movement. So
That's
it was
crazy.
never.
So have you still not had it?
No, still have not had it.
Man,
Yeah,
that's wild because I've had it like 7 times.
yeah,
I still not had it. Yeah.
I've caught it
So
4 times.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And see, it treats everybody different too. So for me, it was just like maybe 24 hours of coughing and I was good. I didn't have any other real symptoms.
I never got a cough from it.
No?
Not really. Yeah. For me, it was always like the really crazy brain tightness. like tension in my brain. I would feel, and that's what would be the worst part. And it would last for like 10 days. That was it.
Sure. Never had it. Don't know.
Yeah, stuff's wild.
Yeah.
As a medic,
What?
what are some of the, just curious, what is one of the craziest things you've seen as a medic?
So I think for me, I would still say the craziest is it's going to deal with like it's usually like the first time you see something or dealing with someone that you know. Because me, what I do, I've been able, I kind of just compartmentalize, right? Like I knew going in when I became a medic, um, like the training they give us, it's not enough to do everything. And even if the training they gave me was enough, in the environments which you're performing care or rendering care in those situations, you don't have everything that you need, right? So I'm not a doctor. And then since then, I've met doctors, met surgeons, you meet things, and they send you to other trainings, and you're like, oh, I wish I would have known this then. But I would say it's still going to be the first time you see something. So for me personally, the one that always sticks out in my mind is going to be what happened to Watkins.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what I think, what I kind of like try to this is weird because most time people say it's an out of body experience. It's a good thing, but this was more like this obviously wasn't a good thing. But luckily I was able to deal with pressure in situations. But I just remember even when I think back on that experience, it was like I don't even feel like I was the one doing anything. But it was still the first time I'd seen. So you hear stories about when you see burns, how they'll act. You'll remember like, oh, the first time you treat somebody you know. And so it was kind of like I did all of those things in that one situation. And so for me, that was still the craziest. And then, like Watkins was black. And so then, like, as we're taking off layers and you're seeing flesh, like flesh, not the same
Yeah.
colors, I still think about that. And so that's definitely like the one that sticks out of my mind. And then, having been able to crack somebody that was still like wild, but it's still nothing like that first experience.
Were you
And
the
dealing,
first medic on station for that?
yeah, they brought them to me. Yeah. And then,
'Cause I remember
even,
being over there, but like you said, I don't remember all the details anymore. That was so long ago.
yeah, so they brought him to me, and then that medic, his name was Cameron. He was really good about like letting me do things. And so like he legitimately let me do everything. That was the one thing about that experience working with those guys. I got to do everything. And I don't know, maybe it was because I was older at that time. Maybe it was because they wanted to really teach. I don't know. Whatever the, it was a great experience. But I was able to be like a lead in those situations.
Yeah.
Now I don't know, when I sit down and think about it, I don't necessarily know if that was the best thing, right? But it's still for my progression, it was what was best. Um, and so yeah, definitely dealing with burns, I'd say is always going to be the hardest the hardest situation.
Yeah, that one was pretty wild, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Wondering what it was like, your experience being a black man in the military, if you think it differed from what our experience was, or if it's a lot more of a racist environment than before you enlisted. Because in my experience, I thought that it was a lot more inclusive in the military because where I grew up, it was a lot different. It was South Louisiana. It was split 50-50. Black people go some places, white people don't. And when I joined the military, we all got mixed in, and it got rid of a lot of racial stereotypes that you had heard growing up. And we were just curious, kind of your experience with it.
So I do think it is. They do try very hard to have inclusion, and that's something that they pushed for. Um, but there's still the situations where, as you get up in rank, and they've done, like you can, even if you read in the media now, they'll talk about like how they'll certain times pick certain leaders based on gender, race, and those things. And you can have whatever your thoughts are on that. But what I will say for me is it's still a challenge when you go into a room and you're the only one of your kind. And I don't care what anybody says, right? Like y'all have probably been places sometimes where you're the only male in the room or you're the only white guy in the room, and it gives you this feeling of discomfort, right? Like it's just not. So the inclusion, I'd say early on you see it was really really good, but ultimately like there's still little pockets where you'll be. around people, because even when I went to basic, I think I went and there was people who said they'd never seen a black person before, like because I went during like split ops, and there was a bunch of like people from Utah, which means a lot of Mormons, which so you understand that, but it's still like it's still it still makes you feel uneasy. You kind of I always take it as an opportunity. When I say that, what I mean is like if I'm your encounter and you've never been around somebody and I can break a stereotype for you or I can change your mindset, I take pride in that, because I still think I speak well enough. I still know that I have enough education or I have the ability to gain the education. And then I want you to think of people from my culture or people who look like me. I want them to have a good reputation, because even if certain stereotypes may be true, like people could change. Um,
Right.
but it's still a certain, there's times where if you're the only one in a room that looks like you, it gives you a feeling of unease. But in lower enlisted, you don't see it very much. I'll definitely say that. It's when you start to get up in ranks, or even if you're around a lot of officers, that's when you'll start to notice the I would say the discrepancies.
And I would,
And it can be hard. I think it can be hard, right? Because if 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 um if I don't feel like you can understand me, then if you can't understand me, then I definitely can't trust you. And
yeah.
if I trust you, then I'm never going to have that team concept. I definitely don't want to follow you as a leader, right? Like there's all these different things that come into play. So it's tough.
And then you'll start dealing with, at least what I saw a lot was maybe not so much you didn't get a position because of, the color of your skin, but a lot of times once they got the position, they'd say, oh, it's because of blah, 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 or it's
Yeah.
because, and it takes away all your accomplishments, basically just saying
Exactly.
that you just got the job based off of the color of your skin.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other side of it, right? Like they don't know the work that you may put in, or they don't know everything that went into it. It's just sometimes the assumption is made that it's because of that. But like that's where I would say for everybody's different, right? But for me, I constantly think of everything that I put in and how hard I've had to work in certain situations to get certain places. So that's what changes my mindset towards it. But I can always understand, and I can sympathize or even empathize with someone else who when they come at it from a different point of view than I have. So that's it's a challenge. I wish there was an answer for it, right? Like, but you don't really have an answer for it. I think just constantly if we can continue to get or have more different people from different backgrounds constantly enter into the army, but that doesn't happen, right? Like, recruiting cycles
Yeah.
going, so it's tough.
We're
So
constantly talking about it. That's what opened my eyes a lot was, I don't know if you remember Marshall, probably one of my best friends in the world. I still talk to him all the time. But yeah, that most of our nights just drinking and sitting down and talking about like what it was like where he grew up and where I grew up and the
Yeah,
similarities and the differences, man. It's
and
eye
it,
opening.
And that's what it constantly takes. It takes constant communication of those things, right? It takes being able to have uncomfortable conversations and people not having their guard up, right? Like, because anytime you have your guard up, you don't want to necessarily admit that you may have felt that way or feel that way or
Yeah.
know people that feel that way. So you don't want to necessarily see the other side. But you don't need to see the other side. Sometimes you just need to hear them and hear what they're trying to say and try to know that how they feel is really how they feel, and that means it's a valid point of view, you know.
Yeah.
So that
Sobers, you talked about breaking down some stereotypes. What were some of the major ones that you feel like that you got to break down and change?
I mean, just because a lot of times certain people talk certain ways, right? So it may be like that's one, and then sometimes people will think like, oh, you're not necessarily educated. So I think from speech and just actually having to you really have to you really got to think about stuff before you say it, right? And then obviously dealing with being angry. Sometimes people just assume everybody, like black people are loud, they're vocal, they're aggressive. Um, me being bigger than people, I have to really try not to be ever aggressive. But even if, like, so those things. And I think a lot of times, like, me, when I'm a leader and I have younger soldiers, I don't ever yell at anybody, right? I use it as a tool, but not a constant one, right? So if I'm yelling at you, that means it's a dire situation, and I need you to understand that. And I try not to get mad about little things. I'm not saying this is the best thing to do, but I use it as a thing, right? So if someone messes up on this instance, I may let that slide. Then you're late, I may let that slide. Once it's like three things, I'm saying like, hey, you're doing this, this, and this, right? If you continue to do that, then you're not going to get to what your goal is, right? Because this is what the organization wants, and all of these things you're doing are going away from that, right? So I just kind of change how I go about discipline, punishment, and having a conversation with people.
Which that
Whereas,
really has to be difficult too, walking on eggshells. Because if you do ever happen to lose your temper, everybody
yeah,
might just automatically assume, oh, well, that's just,
yeah, for
an
sure,
angry black man. And you're like, oh, man, I slipped up once and now I'm a stereotype.
100%.
Like, that just sucks.
It does, yeah. So, but I think it does. I think what it does do, I feel like it makes me a better leader, right? Like I'm trying to find different ways to get my point across. So I
Yeah.
try to have a positive attitude about it. Because everybody knows you've had that person who cusses too much and they're trying to speak to you, and I don't even know what are you saying to me? Like, what did I actually do wrong? Right? Like, or the person who's always yelling. Like, if you're always yelling at me, when am I doing something right? Like, tell me, right? So I think it forces
Yeah.
me to think about how I've had leaders, and I
Look,
navigate
I'm
that through.
working on it. I'm working on it. All right.
What
So
the real thing that's scientific, like how do you fit that many F bombs in one sentence? It's crazy.
now, over time, I've been able to, I've navigated those sentences. I know what they're saying. But I'm just saying, if another person was listening, they would have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think that's the cool thing about being in the military too, is you have all these different leadership styles and these different way that people communicate things, and you get a you be able to adapt, and you're able to read between the lines. I feel like because you've dealt with so many different types of people, you kind of can get that type of communication just from having all those experiences. So it's wild.
Well, I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah.
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 So sobers, tell me what's the final score today for Sunday Night Football?
I want the 49ers to score 30 points. So I want it to be like a 31 to like 17, right? We need to win convincing, but I need the Cowboys to still play well so that way, people feel like we're a good team, So that's what I want. I want 31-17. I think it'll probably be more like 21-24. Yeah. So, but
I think you guys are going to spank them, to be honest.
that would be great. That would make me happy. Uh, but I think we'll see them in the playoffs, so I'm not too worried about this game. And sometimes if you beat a team really bad, then you don't later on down the road you don't respect them enough, and you may take them lightly.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true too. Well, I
Kyle
don't have
Shanahan.
too much longer. I was going to say I'm about to have to go do some hay rides, drink some apple cider, and we're going to take the girls picking pumpkins.
That's awesome, man.
But
That's awesome.
dude, it was good seeing you again, Sobers. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, no, it's really good to see y'all. This was fun, man. I enjoy. I'm glad that y'all are doing this. I think everybody has stuff to share, stuff to bring, and it's always good to just let people hear different points of views and share their stuff. And it's also good to see that y'all are doing well. And
You
I'm
too.
I'm not the best at keeping in touch with people, so I always like to know that people are doing good. And if they're doing good, are they doing good as well, right? Like just because you're doing good yourself, are you trying to do good for other people? So
Yeah.
huge. That's huge. So I think this is a good platform. And I hope y'all stay consistent with it and it's able to grow. Well, consistency will cause growth to happen. So
Yeah, and we're going to have you on again too, because I've got tons of medical questions. And not even medical questions, but your experience as a medic. We could go for hours.
yeah, so that's awesome. Cool.
Well, it's time to pot smoke.
All right,
Yeah,
man.
y'all have a good weekend, man. Stay safe.
Good to see y'all.
Thank you for coming on, man.
No, thanks for having me.